There's a thing in Japanese manga called the slice of life, which is you would think
My
would be boring.
favorite kind of anime.
If you do watch slice of life, it tends to draw in a lot of eyes. It tends to draw in a lot of interest, and these things have like no plot really. Like what we would typically call a plot. There's like no terrorist to be stopped, for example. It's usually just like two characters just talking about nonsense. But what makes it interesting, it's the character. Like slice of life, the way it's usually presented, would fall apart completely. It's just that the fact that you have to have really good, strong, compelling characters. And usually in good slice of life, you have really strong, compelling characters. And that goes for pretty much any genre of fiction. If you have good, strong, compelling characters, you have a high chance, not exactly a guaranteed chance, but a high chance of succeeding and having them be really, really interesting. Because we don't really remember like Superman doing whatever in this comic. We remember Superman. We remember Luke Skywalker. We remember Darth Vader. We remember characters. We remember people. So first and foremost, make sure your characters are on point. And I think I've heard this from several different people, from several different. Rocky. I think the guy who made JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I read his book, and he makes the same point, I believe. I think some other people from Hollywood have I heard seen interviews, and it's all about character. I mean, Rocky goes through the whole thing about his own writer's journey, and now how he's actually, in order to write his own stuff, in order to get picked, because he really wanted to be a writer, a mangaka. He actually read tons and tons and tons of other successful mangaka and trying to pull elements from them, and he found out that one of the most powerful elements you have to get right is the character. They have to feel real. They have to feel unique. They have to feel as if you can attach to them.
They have to feel like people.
Yeah, like people, not like caricatures. So one of the big reasons why a lot of the modern day media kind of fails, because they're all like the same person and they all like cardboard cutouts rather than actual people. Like people don't really like Mary Sue's, because Mary Sue's are not people. They're like kind of cardboard cutouts of like porcelain statues. They're just there to be admired, not really to run through any gambits or anything like that. What we really want to see is a good, compelling character, first and foremost. I mean, I can't remember exactly what the quote was, but it's like your character runs through a plot, but no one will care about the plot if you're not interested in the character. If you're not interested in the character, you won't be interested in seeing him run through the plot.
A great example of that comes to mind is First Blood. So in First Blood, the plot is actually about Rambo as a very traumatized, PTSD suffering Vietnam veteran who's accosted by local police and ends up like taking on this entire police department, National Guard troops, wrecking house. But at the end of the movie, Rambo, as played by Sylvester Stallone, has what I think is one of the better monologues in movies in that era, where he's breaking down what it was like as a Vietnam veteran coming home, not being able to work, being homeless now. All his friends are dead. He saw him die in front of him. Like, it's very, very relevant to a lot of people who served in the military now and dealing with some of the trauma that they've dealt with. But what's funny is, to get to your point, literature, is people came out of that movie and all they remembered and felt was Rambo's a badass character. And that leads to Rambo 2, First Blood Part 2, where he's just now an action god going out.
Action icon, yeah.
Yeah, and evolves from there. But if you look at the first movie from a plot standpoint, what actually is being said, it's very different. It's actually a very psychological driven movie about the trauma of war. And because people just came away remembering the character, it created a movement for moving into sequels where he's just now an action hero. It became a meme thing where Rambo was just like an action guy, but in the first movie, it was not that. But the people who watched it and loved it, just that impression that they're left with from a character standpoint is just Rambo's badass. I want to see more Rambo.
And there's an interesting kind of like a struggle and payoff kind of situation, because if you create a character, especially your main character, your readers are going to put themselves in that character's shoes. If that character does not have any struggles, then it diminishes any payoff that you try to give them at the end. And if there's no payoff, then it is a forgettable situation. Like